How are you feeling?
I feel good.
Good. How do you feel about Jolene?
So I don't even think there's enough words to describe the awe and the wonder and the amazement, really.
The whimsy.
It's like I've seen the Eiffel Tower. I've seen the Acropolis. And it doesn't come close.
You have plants at your house.
I have some plants.
Are you good at taking care of them?
Absolutely not.
What is your issue with plants? Because I have my own issues.
I'm dying. So like in my apartment, I don't have any windows in my living room where all the plants are. There's only the balcony door.
Okay.
So that's my only source of light.
Oh, shit.
So I had to like buy lights and like all these things to make it work. Mm-hmm. But I also like went traveling for a while and like left my roommate in charge of the plants.
And they died?
They didn't die, but they didn't.
They were dying.
They were not they weren't happy.
So you have a light issue. I have a watering issue. I overwater my plants, which is very symbolic of my life. I overwater them.
Do you just forget the last time you did it?
I just really enjoy watering them.
Because it makes you feel like you're doing something.
Yeah. My mom, she came over and she was like, you shouldn't water them as much. And I was like, yeah, but she's like, that's why they're dying.
Yeah.
I'm like, but it makes me feel so good. And my mom's like, then fuck it. Fucking kill them. Drown these motherfuckers.
No. You need to get a long chopstick that is wooden. And then you put it in. And if it comes out like dry, you water. And if it comes out like wet with like soil stuck to it, you don't water.
I don't know if I want to take advice from someone who just admitted that they often kill their plants.
You've seen my place. I have.
That's true. But plants are great. I feel like it's like if you don't want to have like pets or like kids, plants are the next runner-up.
Well, that's the thing. I have a pet as well that is eating the plants. So.
Oh, yeah. Cats can't eat certain plants.
Yeah, I think some are bad for it. But none of that I have would like kill the cat. But I just like, I'm trying to like lift them higher and higher off the ground so that he can't reach it.
He's a cat. I don't know if that's going to help much, but I understand the thought behind it. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Insideout Universe. I'm so excited for my guest today. Today, I have my friend Patricia on the podcast. Before we started, we were debating on how we should introduce Patricia because she is just a all-around dope human being, and sometimes it's hard for me to encapsulate that into like an introduction. So I'm just gonna tell you guys, she's one of my friends. She is a mental health advocate and an overall badass. So we're just gonna get into this conversation and let you guys decide what you think about Patricia. Hi, Patricia.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm very excited. Now that we're talking about it again, I think I should have just said goddess is fine.
Goddess. Oh, we should have done that. Roll it back. I love that, though. What did you think when I asked you to be on my podcast?
I was like, took you long enough.
Okay.
Even though you asked pretty early on.
Were you nervous about being on it?
No, this isn't the first podcast I've been on. I also have a friend that has a radio show that I've been on a couple times. So I wasn't nervous of like the fact of like speaking into a microphone or like cameras or like the fact that other people will see this conversation. And also knowing you, like you have a very amazing personality that also like eases things. So I wasn't nervous because I would be doing it with you.
Yeah.
So
and also there's always an editing process.
Right.
We do these things as lawyers where it's like an inside joke where it's like lawyers always love to say there's always an appeal process.
Yes.
And now when I'm doing the podcast, whenever people are nervous, I'm like, there's always an editing process.
Right.
So yeah, things come out perfect. No feet.
But also, not for free 99.
Yeah, right?
But also, like, things don't have to be perfect, too. And I like the humanization of it. You know, people will say and or like will trip over their words, and that's okay, too.
I leave awkward things in. The only time I take things out is if my guests specifically ask me, like, hey, I didn't like this conversation that we had.
Right.
Overshared. Do you think you can take it out? That I'm totally okay with, because people always think like that because the concept of my podcast is inside out and I want people to be like open and honest and vulnerable, that means oversharing, but it doesn't, because the concept of inside out means you just being you.
Yeah.
And if you're uncomfortable with something that you overshared or whatever, that's also organic, and that's okay. So
Yeah, that's very respectful. But I want to know like how much your legal battle with Pixar is going with your Inside Out.
oh,
Do you know the cartoon I'm talking about?
It's the funniest part is my legal battle with Pixar is going okay.
Okay,
I think I'm
amazing.
winning.
Okay.
Because obviously I have more viewers and,
Yeah.
I've been around for longer.
You established.
But you know what's so frustrating? When I post about my podcast, sometimes I'll do hashtags.
Right, and it's
I'll do hashtag Inside Out.
Yeah.
And my videos will show up on a kid's hashtag, essentially. So
Yeah.
I stopped doing that, or I'll separate inside and out.
I think the solution is for you just to be a character in the next movie.
Oh my God. Do you think
Yeah.
I could do that?
100%.
Really?
Yeah.
I've always wanted to be like a voiceover.
Here's your chance.
Let's
call them up.
Shine. What did you want to be when you were a kid?
A lawyer.
Really?
Well,
I know you wanted to be a lawyer, but I didn't.
I wanted to be truthful. I wanted to be an actress.
Okay.
I've always like just been drawn to like the arts and film and stuff like that. But like coming from an immigrant family there, and also being the oldest child and being female, there was like a lot of expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that that dream of mine wouldn't really be supported, and if it was, it would just be tolerated. And then, like, as I got a bit older, I learned about lawyers, and I was like, oh, I could do that job. But also, when my family would ask me what I wanted to be when I was younger, and I said a lawyer, the way their face lit up, that they're oh, this is going to be a good thing. Like, this is something we could really be proud of. And I'm Greek, so it's all about like perception and how people perceive you. And
same with my culture.
Yes,
so I get that
exactly. So, so I just started saying lawyer, 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 and then I did apply to law school. I did write the LSAT.
Can you tell me about that? What happened?
So I had I was very academic growing up. Always had good grades, but also worked very hard at it. Like, it didn't come easy for me. And got into university, like graduated with honors, got some scholarships, went to university, still like I took political science. I'm like still on this lawyer path. And then I had a hard time in third year. Okay. And like a month into it, I was like having really bad panic attacks and I couldn't function. I was like really struggling. And I also was living by myself, and I was living like 5 hours away from home. So I didn't really have any supports. And I had a boyfriend like at that school, and we had broken up, and I just felt very isolated. And I was also living with this like crazy French Canadian woman and her daughter. Like, I was renting a room in their house, and like they refused to turn the heat on, and it was freezing.
Oh no.
Or like I would be washing my dishes, and she would come up behind me and like lower the water, so I wasn't using as much water.
That's so stressful. Okay.
It was just a bad combination. And I like called my mom, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on with me, but like I'm not functioning, I'm not eating, I'm not sleeping, I'm not like, nothing's going well. And she's like, go to the psychiatrist or like the therapist on campus. And I did. And I told her like everything that I was dealing with. And she's like, I can prescribe you medication and stuff. But she's like, I'm afraid that it's not going to work fast enough, because it always takes like weeks.
Medication for anxiety?
I guess like anxiety, or like she hadn't diagnosed me with anything. Like, there wasn't a word to it, but I was clearly going through some sort of like mental whatever. So she basically was like, it might be a good idea to
take a break,
to drop out, essentially take a break. And I was like on OSAP, and I was like, I already paid the fees. Like, I don't know what to do.
Oh, so
I'm like, the deadline's passed. And she's like, don't worry about that. She's like, go home to your family. She's like, I will help you make sure you get your money back and make sure all this stuff.
Oh, shout out.
Yeah, she was great. I wish I remembered her name.
Yeah.
But she was really good. But
what school did you go to?
At the time, I was at Ottawa U.
Okay, so whoever recognizes the story, shout out to you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for advocating. Then I like went home, and I was like a total mess. And I ended up taking a year off school, and then I started seeing a therapist back home, and she basically was like, oh, you're just depressed. Like, it's gonna pass, or like whatever.
What?
So I was like, okay, sure. I remember like my uncle would drive me to my appointments and then pick me up, and then he'd be like, so did you talk about us?
That's so funny. Wait, Is your uncle also like more on the traditional side of the Greek family?
Yes, he's
Okay.
pretty traditional.
So what was that? What
so
was that
he
car ride like?
Well, I don't, like a lot of like not believing in like mental health or depression or whatever,
Yeah.
but also like, did you talk about us? And I'm like, I'm not supposed to say
Yeah.
what I talked about in therapy, but
Also like an "Are you okay? How are you feeling?" would
yeah,
be well situated.
that would be good too. So yeah, so then after that, I ended up like having like a manic episode. I have this feeling that I feel like when your brain is very, very low, it tries to like up itself, like so that it can recover.
Yeah.
But then it goes too high.
Yeah.
And I had this manic episode and I was like, I was just doing a bunch of things that were out of character. And I was like, I remember at that point, because it had been like 6 months or something, I already had a plan that I was going to transfer to York University and finish my degree there. And I was like going to York University and just like walking around campus and like talking to all these people. And like, I remember that I sent like a text message, but I guess this is a long time ago where you could text everyone on your contact list.
Okay.
So I like sent this message that I was having this like party at York or like whatever, and sent it to everyone on my like family members, like
That
people I
is
don't
so
talk
scary.
to. I don't even know if I'm making that up, but that from what I remember, that's what I did. It was everyone on my contact list. And I don't know, just like really weird things. And like, I think I ended up in the hospital or something like that. And my mom was really worried about me because I obviously was not doing well. And she like my mom has magic powers for real. I don't know what it is, but they were saying that it's going to take like a year or more to get me like a psychiatrist or get me in front of someone.
And she got you in?
She called the hospital every day.
Yeah, it's the mom superpower.
Yeah. So like the next day I was in front of the psychiatrist. It was very fast.
Yeah.
And I just told him my story. He was an older Indian man. He's passed now. He was a very good man.
Yeah.
And he listened to my story for 5 minutes and was like, "Oh, you're bipolar." He's like, "You're textbuk bipolar. That's what you are." And I was like,
oh, wow.
very scared at this. I'm like 21 at this point.
Yeah.
You know, my family's from Greece, like I said, like straight from the village. There's no history of mental health. There's nothing like that. And the only person I knew that was bipolar was like my uncle's like ex-girlfriend from years ago who lived in a haunted house and was an artist but didn't have a job and just painted weird things in her haunted basement.
Oh, and so not a good impression.
Not a good. And I was like, okay. I'm like, so that's my life now. Like I'm gonna never work. I'm just gonna live in a haunted house and just be an artist. And yeah, it was scary.
Before we go more into this story, I just wanted to let everyone know one of the reasons why, there's many reasons, but one of the reasons why I really, really respect you as a person and I really wanted you to come on is because I've never spoken to someone who's been like anxiety, depression, people are more open to talking about it. But I've never met someone who was so open about talking about bipolar. And when I first met you, I remember you were so candid about like answering my questions and you were just so like open about it that it really opened my eyes to a lot of things that I didn't know about bipolar. So I just wanted you guys to know I want to use this podcast opportunity to talk to Patricia about many things, but I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about bipolar and what your experience with it was.
Yeah.
Just to have people understand it better. Because before I met you, my understanding of bipolar was just like, oh, it's someone who's really moody. Like it's someone who is too up or too down and whatever. How would you, first of all, that experience must have been really scary. How did you navigate things after that? Like what were your thoughts? How did you move forward?
So one of the reasons why I'm so open about my diagnosis and about living with being bipolar and stuff like that, of course, like my family was like, don't tell anyone, like no one needs to know, it's private, it's personal. And I'm like, no, everyone needs to know. Mm-hmm. Because when I was diagnosed, that was the only person I knew that was bipolar was someone who had an unconventional life and wasn't really functioning in society. Mm-hmm. And I want people to know that you can have a mental health diagnosis and be a functional member of society. Also, if you don't want to be a functional member of society, that's okay too. Yeah. But, you know, awareness is really important. And, you know, it's not like a death sentence or anything like that. It can be if you don't have support and access to the services that you need. And, you know, all of those things. I'm very blessed that, you know, my family, even though they didn't understand mental illness, and I was the first person in our family to have such a diagnosis, and, you know, we all had to do a lot of learning. They still always loved me and supported me, but also definitely have to acknowledge the privilege that I have, you know, being a Canadian citizen, being an English speaker, being someone who has white skin. All of those factors like make a difference. I've had so many run-ins like with the police. I've been handcuffed, been in the back of police cars, and I know that if I was a person of color or someone who couldn't speak English or advocate for themselves or things like that, things would be much different for me.
Yeah.
So that is definitely important to acknowledge all of those things. I also think about like if I lived somewhere in the world, like the States or something, where we didn't have universal health care, I would be really, I don't know how it would make it to this point. I've spent a lot of time in hospitals, but also, you know, I have a psychiatrist and like therapists and like medication and all of these tools that you need. So yeah, all of those things really matter. But yeah.
Yeah. So having been through like a lot of like having utilized a lot of the resources that we do have,
Yeah.
and having gone to the hospital and all of those things, what is your what is your experience? Like, what do you think that there are things that we need to improve on? What do you think?
There's a lot of things that we need to improve on. Like, you know, our healthcare is free for the most part, and that's amazing. Like, I've spent weeks in hospitals and didn't have to pay a single penny, and that's incredible. But also, when I leave the hospital, and medication's a big part of managing this mental illness, and that is not covered by OHIP, right? So,
Okay.
and if you don't have benefits from work, or if you're not, you know, a minor and have benefits from your parents or whatever, you're paying out of pocket for that, and
it's a lifelong.
and it's forever.
Yeah.
It's forever. That was like, no pun intended, a big pill to swallow when I was first diagnosed, because it's something that is forever, and there's nothing in my diet or in my lifestyle or anything that I can change that would treat this. It is a chemical imbalance, and it's not like, you know, I could just eat more eggs and it'll help. Like, obviously you should eat healthy and things like that, but it's your brain chemistry.
Yeah, you need the medication.
You need the medication to, like, the way I explain it is like someone's brain chemistry will go like this. Someone who has depression will go like this. Someone who's bipolar, it'll go like this. It'll go like this.
Yeah.
So you need the medication to just stay stable, just to be normal.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, you should not do drugs, because, like, what are the studies of these effects on a bipolar brain?
Yeah.
You know, I've
very
never
limited.
And also, like, it's just not worth the risk for me, anyways.
Yeah.
You know, because when you're manic, like, anything can happen.
Anything can happen. Yeah.
But also when you're depressed, then it's like suicidal issues and stuff like that, and it's just like either way you could lose your life. Yeah. So it's a big gamble.
You have to live a very healthy life, and you do. And honestly,
I try to. Yeah. I mean, I was never like into drugs and stuff like that before I was diagnosed, but then when I was diagnosed, I was like, okay, well, I'm never gonna try, because it's
even
like,
drinking, right? You don't drink.
I don't drink. I just don't like the taste of alcohol.
Okay.
And with certain medications, you probably shouldn't drink and stuff like that. But I'm just not into it. It's just like a happy coincidence. Yeah. But it's like, you know, sleep is a very important thing. And, you know, when you're manic, you don't sleep, or you're going off of an hour, a couple hours of sleep. And obviously your brain's not functioning properly when that's happening. So making sure that you're getting enough sleep every night is really important. And just like water and like healthy food and like exercise, movement, mindfulness. I practice hot yoga. That's a really big grounding practice for me. Because you just have to live conscious of those things and be mindful, because it sucks. Like every time, you know, you have a manic episode or you go into depression, you have to like rebuild your life after that.
Oh, that's
Like
hard.
you lose your job, you lose your housing, you catch charges and got to fight that. Like
Yeah.
it's so many things. It makes your life so like messy.
Yeah.
And it can be exhausting.
Because even I remember one of the things that you said to me when I first asked you about your experience with bipolar. You said, I was like, what do you feel like after like a manic episode? And I had never thought about it this way because I always thought, okay, like you're manic and then you're depressed, you're manic and you're depressed. Like that's how your brain works. But you were like, yeah, but a lot of times you also do so many things when you're manic and you have to deal with the consequences after, which causes you to be a lot more like stressed and depressed and stuff like that too.
Yeah. I remember we were saying like every manic episode, you remember everything, like, or most of it. It's not like, you know, taking a drug and blacking out or getting drunk and blacking out and doing something that's out of character or that or is maybe a mistake. And the next day or whenever you're like, oh, I don't remember what happened, and you have to like find out from friends or whatever what happened. For me anyways, I remember all of it and it's embarrassing, or it's like, you know, I wouldn't have done that. I've had like situations where I had an altercation with somebody and they like filmed it and they found where I worked and they like sent the video to my work and all this stuff. So it's like the things that you do when you're not, because it's yourself, but it's I like to say it's the worst version of yourself. It's like that side of you that you don't want to show the world, but then you're in that state and you're just like fuck it, and and that side of you comes out, like you say the worst things you've ever said, you get in the most fights with the people that love you the most, you know, you don't care about like the law or authority and you're very anti-authority and stuff like that. So at least for me, I can only talk about my experience.
But yeah, it sounds rough. So to break it down a little bit, okay, first of all, it's really good that you mentioned that, because another reason why in my heart I really wanted to have this conversation is because I'm the type of person where I think everybody should take accountability. You know, no matter what you're going through, you should make an effort to seek help, to obviously in your situation, like take medication, do the things that you're doing, like not doing drugs, like you said, or you're keeping active and you're just living a healthy, accountable lifestyle. But I also, on the flip side of that, I also wanted people to know that, like, you know, this kind of situation requires a little bit of empathy and understanding from other people too, because when you are in that state, you have explained to me that, like you said right now, it's not that it's not you, but it's like the worst version of you, you know? And so that's also important to break this down like a little bit, because I want people to kind of get a better understanding of how to deal with this, how to spot it, how to help, or anything like that. Could you maybe tell us, like, what was your first, like, manic episode that you had? Do you remember it? What did it feel like?
Yeah, well, I think, again, like, I think, like, bipolar and I think mental illness, a lot of it is genetic, but I also think that traumas in your life kind of, like, unlock it. So I had a pretty good childhood, but also, like, going through divorce, or we didn't have a lot of money and things like that. So there was trauma still. You know, my dad wasn't in my life. Things like that I think add to it. Grade 10, I had a really rocky time. I went through being a straight A student, being in all the clubs, being like a model kid, to like failing everything, literally walking out of exams, like having a big attitude problem, like just not giving a fuck about anything, which was so out of character. My mom literally thought I was on drugs. She brought me to the doctors. I think they tested my blood. She like made a doctor like give me like the sex talk because she thought I was like being sexually active, and I was doing none of those things. I was just manic. I remember I went to like I had my brothers, like this is when like G what's it called? G-Shock or something?
Yeah, it was a thing.
Was a thing.
Yeah.
And I had his like watch for some reason from his birthday, and I gave it to somebody because I felt like they needed to have it or something. And I was like in a church and I was like talking to other people. I was just like doing all this random stuff. But then it kind of like my teachers were all like, oh, she's just having a phase. It's just a phase, like it'll pass. And it did pass. And then I went back to like straight A student and like normal. whatever normal is.
All the way until the story
third
that
year.
you said.
Until
Oh,
third year.
wow.
Yeah.
So when you first had your manic episode, you weren't able to identify it. Your
We
family
didn't know what it was. No.
And it wasn't until later in university where you were able to actually get diagnosed.
But that was like the process of like going to the therapist. That was like, oh, you're just depressed, and going to all these people to finally get in front of a psychiatrist, which would have taken a year or more to even do, like to even get in front of one. So it was a blessing. Like the diagnosis was 100% a blessing. It's scary. It's a scary word. But it's like, if you have the diagnosis, then you can start to treat it. And if you don't know what you have, then it's like, what are you treating? You're treating a mystery, you know?
So did you feel better then after you got the diagnosis, or was it scary?
It was relieved to know, to have a name of like what I'm going through, and have acknowledgement that this is actually like a thing that is serious and that we need to treat and like get under control. Because I was young, and it's like I wanted to have a life, you know? I didn't want to keep going through this depressive and manic and ups and downs. Like, it's not healthy for me. So it was a blessing to have the diagnosis. It was scary to know that I have to take this medication for the rest of my life, every single day, no matter what. And then the medication process it's trial and error. Like, brain medicine there's so much that they don't know, and everything is like, well, we'll just try it out, see how it goes. But it's like, when it's your health, it affects you. There's side effects. There's like all these like interactions and all of these things. So it can take months, years to get the right dosage and the right combination and all of those things. So that it's a journey. Like, it's honestly a journey. You know, having bad experiences with the police, having bad experiences, like even with my family and everything, and ending up like in psych wards, that's really scary too. I want to say it's part of the process, but hopefully not for everyone. But for me, it very much was.
Yeah.
And for me, like, it's a terrible experience, because for me, I've never gone willingly. It's always been against my will.
Yeah, you told me, I think you said one of my biggest goals is to walk myself into a psych ward.
I mean, ideally, hopefully I'll never have to go into one again. But on all of the times I've been in the psych ward, it's always been against my will. And when it's against your will, it means you're formed, which means you can't leave. You can't even leave to go outside for some fresh air. It's like you're on lock. It's like a prison sentence. It's a lot nicer than prison, but you can't get out. And that in itself, when you're there against your will, you're not open to whatever they're trying to do. You're not receptive. Yeah. And also, you're like coming off a manic episode. So they're not even listening to you.
You need comfort. You need like support.
It's a lot of trauma, and all the doctors and the nurses, they're kind of like taking what you're saying and just like not acknowledging it because you're crazy. Like you're manic or whatever.
Maybe they're desensitized to it because they deal with it all the time.
Maybe they're over it.
Yeah. But I would imagine that experience, like you said, trauma could sometimes trigger a manic episode.
Yeah.
But I would imagine that experience would be traumatic.
It makes it worse for a while, and then they like pump you with drugs, and then you kind of level out after a while. Sometimes they like strap you down and inject you with drugs if you don't want to take them. It's like, it's not fun. It's very Girl Interrupted, if you've seen that movie.
No.
Okay, we'll watch it later.
No, I'm gonna have to see it.
It's with Angelina Jolie. It's about girls in a psych ward. But, you know, for me though, like, it's part of the process. I guess it's like a thing that you had to go through. It's very much a survival thing. The doctors and stuff, like, they don't really understand you, or they're not kind of like meeting you where you're at. But there are other patients there who are schizophrenic, who are bipolar, who have BPD, who are depressive, who are living these lives that are volatile, that are, you know, they're obviously also in crisis. But listening to people that are like you, that have the same diagnosis as you, that have had similar life experiences as you, that's when you're like, okay, I'm not alone in this. Mm-hmm. It's not just me. There's all these people around me that are in the same boat, essentially, and like we're all in this together. Yeah. And, you know, I remember I had to do this like workshop in the hospital. Yeah. And it was like how to get through panic attacks. And there was like this big conference room. There's like 30 of us all patients sitting, and there's this like young like white girl like straight out of university leading the workshop, and she starts it off with saying, I've never had a panic attack, but these are the steps to da 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 da. And I was like sitting next to her, and I just turned and I was like, why would you open with you've never had
a
one?
panic attack, yeah.
I'm like, what am I gonna learn from you? And I got up and walked out.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not doing this. I'd like to speak to people that have had panic attacks that can talk to me about lived experience.
Yeah.
I think lived experience is so, so important. And I'm just like, not in for the bullshit. So it's nice to speak to people in a similar
Who
situation.
understand.
Yeah.
Do you have any friends who also have bipolar?
Yeah, I do have some friends like that are bipolar. I don't know if I have any that are super close to me that have like exactly what I have. I have some friends that are BPD and whatever. What's interesting is that when you're in the psych ward, you make friends with everyone. You're like best friends, and you spend every second together, and you're literally coloring. That's the only thing you can do is just color. And you have this really strong connections, and then you exchange social medias and you exchange information. But then when you leave, it's like, okay, we're past that now. Like now we're like starting our new lives, and you don't often stay in touch.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I have those people that I met in hospital and stuff.
Yeah, it's still a somewhat of a support system that you could rely on if you wanted to. That's good. I also want to kind of put like a lighthearted spin on this because some of the
Is it
things
dark right now?
No, it's not dark. Honestly, this might be my
could get
favorite
darker.
conversation because I'm like I so love having conversations with people who are open and honest.
Yeah.
And I was like, right when we were having this conversation, I just had a million thoughts, and we could talk about that after too.
I love that.
I love this conversation, and I do want to say that it is also somewhat lighthearted because I know of some of the things you have done when you've been manic. And I'm like, why do I get it? It's hard. It's rough. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can only imagine what you were going through, but also like badass. You know what I mean? Because, okay, can you share some of like the funny things that you've done when you've been
Do we
manic?
want funny or fucked up?
Do both, please.
Oh
Give
my
us
gosh.
variety.
I don't know about a funny one, but the thing is with someone that's manic or someone who's like in a heightened state, that whatever is in their mind is their reality. So like it's real to them. So you can see it and you'd be like, what the heck is going on? But it's like, it's not matching.
Yeah.
So for example, like one of the times I was manic, I saw a building being built like on a corner, and I was like, yeah, that's right. I wanted a building to go there. So that's why they're putting it there, because I want it there. I'm not an architect.
That's so funny.
I'm not a city planner. I've never spoken to a single person about a building there.
Yeah.
Watching TV, and I'm like, yeah, the TV is either this show is on specifically for me to see it because they know I'm watching, or it's like speaking to me. I remember I was like in the back of a cab, which that's how you know I was manic, because I never take cabs. And the radio was on, and I was like, yeah, the radio is speaking to me. Like, I understand it's like all for me. And like me being stable right now, I would never have that thought. I would never think the radio is speaking to me because I have like logical reasoning.
Yeah.
And I know that that's not possible. But in the moment, it's your truth. You feel elevated. You feel like son of God moment. You just don't have any barriers. You just feel very like empowered. Like you feel very right. You feel like unstoppable, really.
Yeah. So when you are having a manic episode, you feel good.
Yeah, I mean, you feel good. You're elevated because it's like, you know, the happy chemicals in your brain, like dopamine, serotonin, they spike.
Yeah.
So someone could perceive you as like being on drugs, but you're not on anything. You're just like on your own brain.
Yeah.
So it can be very, you know, you're elevated, you can be in a good mood, but also you can be very aggressive and very confrontational. So you would have arguments with people that you normally would not even pursue that, or you would walk away, or or it wouldn't bother you. But when you're in that place, it does. And you know, you don't sleep, you don't eat, your mind is moving very quickly. You feel like everyone around you is moving too slow or thinking too slow or speaking too slow. If you can speak languages, you speak those languages much better. Like when I'm manic, I swear I'm fluent in Spanish and French and Greek and English.
Really?
God knows what else.
That's so funny.
Also, like I turn into a rapper, which is great.
That's hilarious. I love that.
That's like, which is like embarrassing though. You're also, at least for myself, over posting on social media.
Yeah.
Going on live all the time. And it's like embarrassing because you're not like, maybe some of the things you say are like profound and interesting, but not everything.
Yeah.
And I was like rapping a lot. I have a friend who is a producer and I would like buy studio time and just go in there and just like rap over beats. But I have none of them. I don't have any of it. You start a million things and finish nothing.
None of them, yeah.
And so that it's unfortunate. It's like if you could use that energy and that momentum like for good, it would be amazing. But it never comes out positive. Like
I think your mom told me a story about you. First of all, okay, I understand that you have to understand, like, I'm looking at this as, like, someone who does not have as interesting of a brain, okay? So from my standpoint, when I hear these stories, I'm like, okay, I get it, but, like, kind of dope. Like, this is, like, kind of crazy because it's like you say, oh, it's the worst version of me, but, like, all of the stories that you tell me are so, like, vigilante, like...
It is a vigilante.
And it's like, okay, your mom told me this story about you inviting homeless people to your house.
Yeah, because that's another part of me is that I'm very like Captain Save-A-Ho, but like
I love that,
but save the world. I'm very like peace and love and the children and like the environment and like and that is very much a part of who I am. Like I do activism work, I do protests, I do all of those things. But when I'm manic, it's like in a way that maybe isn't the best.
It's like harmful.
Risky. Let's say risky.
Okay.
So I was living in a very bad neighborhood, and there was a lot of open. It was like a crack neighborhood. It was a lot of open drug use, a lot of open street like sex work, and a lot of people that were suffering. And I'm like, and that triggers me in itself, because then I'm like, okay, we can fix this. I'm like, so I started guerrilla gardening. I coined that, where you go to like public plots of land and you just garden. You just like,
that's so cute.
You just like put flowers and just make it beautiful.
Yeah.
Cause like if you went through the city, it would take years or whatever.
Yeah.
I started making friends with the people that were like using drugs in the neighborhood. But not like making friends like a normal person, making friends like giving them the key to my Jeep and being like, go make money with this. Like, I know you need money right now.
That is so funny.
And so here are the keys. Like, do you? I think I also aided in some robberies, but like corporate robberies, like to like a corporation, not a person.
Yeah.
That matters.
I feel you. But see, this is what I'm saying. Like, I get it, but also like, who else am I going to meet that's going to have these kind of stories in their lifetime?
Fair. I was also making friends with all of the sex workers in the area, bringing them to my apartment. With that, I had roommates who obviously did not want them there. Bring them to my apartment, letting them shower, giving them all of my stuff. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna save this neighborhood. I had like, this is COVID times 2, so I wasn't working, which is not good for me. I need structure. I had like $10,000 to my name, and I was gonna rent out this abandoned clothing store and turn it into a youth drop-in center.
Aww.
But like with no plans of like making revenue to like keep it alive. It was just like a hope and a wish.
Yeah.
And like my friends are very protective of me, and I'm lucky to have them, but they literally, I was like so close to signing the papers and sending in the money. And they like went behind my back and they told the landlord, like, if you make a business deal with this person, like they're not well, like we will take you to court.
Aww.
So it never went through.
I'm glad you actually mentioned that, because when we do talk, I do think about these things. How do you think people around you, like friends or like coworkers or family, how do you think people around you should respond when you are going through a romantic episode? What helps you?
It's very tough, and I don't fully have an answer for that, because also every manic episode is different, and it poses different challenges. And I would say the older you are, the more things you have, the more money you have, the bigger the risks, you know? So, when you're younger, you don't have a car, you don't have money to like invest in a property or whatever. So it's like, what's the worst that could happen? I would say if you're dealing with someone that is manic, try to be there for them. Try not to escalate things, and like avoid a fight, avoid conflict as much as possible. But it's really difficult. Like I have made like a contingency plan, or like plans when I'm stable that say like, when I'm doing this, and this thing, I will recognize that I'm manic and that I need to seek help or change what I'm doing or something. And I've had like friends like sit me down with that same list and be like, okay, well, this is happening and this is happening. So like maybe we should do this or see your doctor or whatever. And it's like in the moment, you're not receptive to that because you're not in the right state of mind. And also you're the worst version of yourself. So it's very difficult. And that's why for me, it's always ended in me being forced to go to a psych ward and then to level out. And then they let you go. And then it's like doing that work to rebuild. So it's very tricky. It's very tricky.
Yeah.
I think the focus should be trying to not get to that point.
Okay.
Trying to maintain stability, whatever that is for you. It can be different for everyone, but trying not to get to that point where you're like off the deep end, because it's like you're off the deep end. The only thing you can do is like fall.
Yeah.
And as much as your family and your friends try to like mitigate that, it's almost like you just have to ride it out to the end and then start the work of recovery.
Yeah. Sounds tricky because you know what? Because I always think about that. I'm like, well, like I don't think like, because like you said, like you're confrontational sometimes when you're like that. So it's like I was like, okay, confronting the issue might not be a good idea, but also like maybe going along with it wouldn't really do much because certain times you do things that are risky. So somebody needs to like do something. But now that we've talked about this topic of like going and getting professional help and things like that, I know that I know this about you, but I think that it's something that could be very beneficial to other people to hear as well, because I've personally, for my own reasons, have needed to take space from my family and have needed to take space from my friends. For my own reasons, I felt like I needed to just like reinvent myself. And I felt like being around people who knew the past version of me was a constant reminder of who I didn't want to be anymore. And I felt like I just needed to take some time away to get comfortable being the person I wanted to be, and then reintroduce myself to my friends and family as I am this person. And like, you know what I mean? So can you tell us a little bit about your experience with like how you had to gauge your relationship with your friends and your family?
Yeah, it can be very tough. So I like went through a pretty bad manic episode like a few years ago, and like when I came out, I was just like not in a good place, and my family was trying to do what they can to support me and stuff like that, but I felt like it wasn't helping the situation. But also I felt like I was being kind of infantilized by it too, because I kind of felt like everyone was like treating me like a kid, and like they would like cook for me and like wash my clothes and and it's like those are very kind things to do, but for me it made me feel like I was stuck in a place that I didn't want to be stuck in, and I felt like I was not standing on my own 2 feet, and I was not being an adult. Even though I was an adult, I had my own apartment, I had things to state that, but I just wasn't feeling like that. And also it can be very tricky, especially being in a Greek family. Like there's a lot of love, but it could sometimes be like all consuming, and everyone's kind of like on top of each other, and it can kind of be a lot of drama and a lot of conflict too. So I felt like I just needed to, and I had never done this before in like my whole life, but I needed to step away and have my own space to like stand on my own feet, but also to like rebuild my life again, because that's what you have to do when you come out of the hospital. You got to rebuild your life again. And I just had this feeling that I needed to do it by myself. And it wasn't just my family. There was some friends that I stepped away from as well. A couple of friends from my childhood that are really incredible people, and I do wish I could have them in my life, but I think, I don't know if it's because their lives were too cookie cutter or I just felt like we couldn't understand each other anymore. And I felt like I didn't like feeling like I didn't measure up. And that's a me problem. And I totally recognize that. And it's not really like they were actively judging me or anything like that. But I think I felt like my life was so fucked up that we could never kind of like meet at the same.
I understand that.
So I just didn't like the way that made me feel, and I stepped away. And then I had other friends that I had to step away from because they liked the mania. They liked like the party. Like we would go on benders. They'd be like partying, doing drugs, whatever. I would be on nothing, but I'm still up for 3 days with them, like, you know, causing havoc, doing things. And it's like, you can't have friends like that, because if they like the high, they're always going to support. Like when they see you getting into that direction, they'll support it because it means good times for them, or it just means adventure. It means chaos or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I took a lot of time. I took a couple years to myself, and I did rebuild my life, and I did, you know, stand on my own 2 feet and just do everything myself. My life became very quiet, I will say. I had to get used to, you know, not always having plans with people, or not having someone to talk to, or like being kind of lonely too. But you know, I was doing really well mentally. You know, like I got a good job. I was being very productive. I was being healthy. I wasn't going up or down. I was maintaining stability, which was very important to me, because I feel like if I'm not stable and if I'm not in a good place, then I'm not good to anyone.
Yeah.
And I do want to be someone that helps others, that contributes to the world and stuff like that. And it's like, how can you do those things if you're not in a good place, if you're not well? So, yeah, but recently I have slowly brought people back into my life, and I feel good about it. I feel like it was a good time. I was conscious to not do it around the holidays, because I didn't want to feel pressured to do that, to be with family and stuff like that. I want it to be on my own terms. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, and I know I already know what you're gonna say, but first of all, I'm so beyond grateful that I got to meet you, because
too.
in my opinion, and this is just my opinion from the outside looking in, objectively, you are such a strong person. I feel so inspired when I talk to you, just in every way, not even about like the mental health things we're talking about, but just taking that time away and coming back a much stronger person, and seeing that you're so independent in your life, and how much room you have in your heart to help people and to always be there, whether it's like I want to have a conversation, or whether someone in your family needs you. And I just wanted to say that, like, it's more than just, oh, like, you dealt with your mental illness well. It's like you are an incredible person, and you worked so hard to like bring that out.
Well,
and I
thank you.
really admire that.
It's very kind of you to
Yeah.
say. I don't know if I'm doing mental illness well at all. I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way, because at the end of the day, we're just doing whatever we can to survive. You know, when I ride the subway and I see someone like wearing very weird clothes and like yelling at strangers and clearly mentally unwell, I'm like one bad day away from that.
Yeah.
You know, like it's a very humbling experience. And you realize that like you're not better than anyone. Even if you are doing well in the moment, it could change.
Yeah.
You never know. You know, even having like my family back in my life and stuff, I was cautious to do that, because I didn't want to go backwards. I didn't want to lose my recovery, and I'm still a little guarded, and I'm still trying to navigate that, because it can be very difficult, and you don't want triggers, and you know, and dealing with family stuff, because life happens.
Yeah.
Life is never always going to be rainbows and sunshine. And I'm dealing with these things and helping family or people that are close to me and thinking like, okay, it's a really good thing I'm not manic right now, because if I was manic, I would be dealing with
would
this
not go over well
in a completely different way.
Yeah.
So,
but
yeah.
I understand what you're saying, and I do think that's an important message to just like put out there, that like there's no one way of like taking care of your mental health. But what I was saying was more so about you as a person, just in general. And before we started this podcast, I did mention to Patricia that I was like, hey, listen, there's this, I do want to talk to you about this situation, but because I think it's important, and she agreed with me. But I also, the whole idea behind my podcast is for people to come on and be themselves. And knowing Patricia as a friend, this does not at all encompass her whole personality. There's so much more to her that I would also love to talk
Right.
about on this podcast. So, is there anything more you want to add to this discussion before we move on?
Yes, just one thing. No, I just want to, so I'm a very spiritual person, and I do believe that there is a higher power and that we are all put on this earth for a reason, and that God doesn't make mistakes and things like that. I'm not super into religion, which is very man-made, but I do think that like this, I was bipolar for a reason. Like I said, I believe that it is genetic, and I think that there's a reason why this genetic makeup has not been like evolutioned out of society. And I think it's because some people are supposed to be schizophrenic or bipolar, or they're supposed to have like a different brain chemistry, because I think these people see the world and experience the world in a different way. And I think that they are the movers and the shakers, and we would be so stagnant without these people. So I do think that it is not a mistake that people have these diagnoses, but it's not an easy life. And it is definitely a struggle. But, just because you're in a bad spot mentally, you're very low, doesn't mean you'll be there forever.
Yeah.
And we're very lucky, like I said, to be in Canada, to have access to healthcare and these supports. But if you're someone at home that is dealing with this, or has a loved one that's dealing with this, like, talk about it, like, get help, seek help. It's not a weakness to take medication. I thought that for a very long time. It's not a weakness. It's just another tool to get you through life. And that's also why I wanted to be on here, because I think this is an important conversation. We need more visibility. We need to normalize it. We need to talk about it. Like the stupid Bell Mental Health Day.
Yeah.
Which is so corporate. It's so corporate.
Can I tell you something
I
about that
haven't seen a
day?
cent of that money. I'll tell you that.
Can I tell you something about that? I don't want to devalue what you were saying, but this really triggered me when I was younger. I remember I used to work with people who actively bullied me when I was in a really low place in my life. And I remember I used to be in the darkest point in my life, and I had a whole shit ton of things that I was dealing with at home, and these people were blatantly bullying me at work as grown adults.
Wow.
And then on Bell Mental Health Day, they would post about mental health and advocating for mental health. And nothing made me angrier at the time than seeing these posts, because it's mental health is not just about, to me at least, because I have my own mental health struggles, and it's not about just making these grand gestures and these protests, or sometimes those things are important, or appearing on these days or whatever. It's literally the way you treat the people around you every single day, because you don't know what that person is going through in that given moment.
Exactly.
Someone could meet you and they don't know who you are, and you might be going through a manic episode. To them, they might just think that's who you are. You know what I mean? So in those moments, it's important to treat people with respect and with kindness. And, I haven't always been perfect myself, but as I've grown older, I've realized the importance of understanding that everybody is going through something.
And that's it. You don't know. So it's give people grace and take a deep breath maybe for a second. Take a moment, touch grass, all those things. Nature therapy is very important. But it's so performative. We don't have to be performative. We can just be real.
Yeah, just be yourself and just be, there for the people around you. And also to everybody who did bully me back then and then posted on Mental Health Day. Fuck all of you guys.
Literally.
So you know who you are.
Oh,
But
man. It's okay. I was bullied too. I've been there.
I know it's so funny because I was bullied, and then for a brief period I was a bully.
Interesting. That happens.
But I was a bully to the bullies.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Which now, as an adult, I look back and I'm like, eye for an eye, maybe not the right vibe. But I was like so fed up with it that I would like go and seek out bullies and then make it my life's mission to just ruin their day.
Okay. Interesting.
But then that only lasted a brief period before I realized I am way too mentally unstable to be doing this like righteous bullshit.
It's vigilante shit, right?
Yeah. Okay, so to talk about some other thing, some other things that I find cool about you. That happens to me a lot here.
I love it.
You are a very big advocate of all things LGBTQ.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that definitely goes along the lines of, I don't believe God makes mistakes.
Okay.
I don't believe that your sexuality or your gender identity is a choice. I think you're born that way. I think some people, it takes them time to truly come into who they are as a person. And I also think that your environment really affects that. Mm-hmm. So, you know, people will be like, oh, why are there so many gay people in Toronto or whatever? It's like, well, look, they have space to exist. Mm-hmm. There's places in this world where they don't have space to exist. I myself identify as pansexual, which was a journey in itself of discovering that, because it's not something that is widely known, or like people don't really understand that. To like, it just means you like all humans, no matter how they identify. Mm-hmm. But you know, it's really sad. Like, I have family members that are gay and that had difficult lives, like growing up in a Greek household, in a very religious household, because it's still seen as like not good, like not godly or whatever, mm-hmm. which I don't agree with. Everyone should be accepted for who they are. And it's really, you know, sad what's happening in the world now, especially with trans people and trans rights. And people are getting their gender markers changed on their ID after spending their whole lives trying to get it changed to be what they actually are. It's really sad, and people like deserve to be safe and to be supported and to be loved and to be able to exist as they are. I really feel like, you know, I hope in the future it won't matter like your sexuality, who you sleep with, who you're intimate with, who you marry. It won't matter your gender marker, if you're trans or this or that. It's just going to be like, you're just a human. Mm-hmm. I hope, like, you know, you go into a store and there's no girls or guys section, and there's no plus size or petite section. It's just clothes. Yeah. Just whatever works for you, mm-hmm. you know? So yeah, it's really important, especially now. In some places in the world, we're kind of going backwards, which is really sad. Yeah. But, you know, I just think that means that people need to be a bit louder, mm-hmm. Which is crazy. Like, people are just have to be loud for existing, mm-hmm. You know, but I hope that slowly, as time passes and more work is done and more knowledge comes out, that it will get better. I also think that there's people around the world that have all these opinions of like gay people or trans people or whatever, but they don't know any gay people. They don't know any trans people. Yeah. It's like, well, they probably do, and they just don't know it. They don't know, yeah. But it's like, I think we just need to find that human connection. And once people will recognize that we have more similarities than we do differences, then more progress will be made. But yeah, it's a topic that is close to my heart, especially when I think of kids and, you know, how they're just trying to make it, but they're different. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
whenever I have guests on my podcast, I always go through this like struggle of like I want to make space for my guests to be themselves and to show people who they are, and hopefully the viewers and the listeners could like find themselves in the person, see themselves in the person, relate, or even just have like a discussion. But when I am in those moments, I always kind of like struggle with balancing that with like my own like ability to like be myself.
Yeah.
And like I don't think I've ever openly talked about this, but since becoming friends with you, I've kind of thought more about what my opinions are on the whole everything that we're going through right now, just socially and like politically about like the LGBT like discussion. This is just my opinion. I think it's okay to not have an opinion about everything. Like, if you are somebody who doesn't identify as someone who is trans, or somebody that doesn't identify as gay or whatever, you don't necessarily, just because you don't understand it, you don't necessarily have to disagree. You know what I mean? Just open your ears, open your mind, and like listen and try to see what resonates with you, what kind of you do understand, what you can kind of like empathize with, and what you can kind of like make room for in your life. But to me, that doesn't necessarily mean that people have to completely agree or disagree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like where I stand, and I've thought about this a lot with this whole discussion that is unfortunately so prevalent now of like, oh, what do you think about like the LGBT community and what's happening right now in the world? Honestly, for me, like I'm bi. I think that it's possible to be a woman that is more masculine. It's possible to be a man that is more feminine. I don't think that these things are rigid, like you're either one or the other. But I also am going to be open about I don't know the struggles or what it feels like to be trans. I don't know what happens in the minds and the hearts of people who are trans. As it pertains to us as a society, I am able to empathize. I'm able to like listen and understand, even not having experienced it. But what I am against is which pertains to all of my beliefs, is I would like to minimize government interference with anything, especially things that are so private. I feel like I want society to get to a point where we have enough power and we have enough like understanding of each other to be able to resolve these discussions as a community versus having to rely on the law and whatever, because these things are never what we think they are. They're never for the benefit of the people. Everything is about politics, whether they're advancing the LGBT community and their message today or they're disagreeing with it tomorrow. I can guarantee it's not for a humanitarian reason.
All right.
You know what I mean? So my thing has always been like, be a part of the community. Just open your ears, open your mind, have a discussion, and come to an agreement together as a community, even if that agreement is to agree to disagree.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of where I stand on it. And I've never talked about it, but since you're here, I thought I would mention that because I know from my interactions with people that there's a lot of people who feel like me, but they feel like they can't say anything because they need to have a hard stance. And that's unfortunately what social media does. It makes it think you either have to be an arrogant, a rigid, right-handed person, or you have to be like a left-sided, like liberal, open to everything kind of person.
Yeah, it's very like this or that.
That was my little rant, sorry.
No, I love it. I totally agree with you that everything should be community building. It should be community based.
Yeah.
And I think if we had more community and we felt more connected to our communities, then I think people would give a shit more. Like not even just about people, but about the environment, about all of these factors that affect all of us. With the government stuff, it's tricky because one of my favorite feminist sayings is the personal is political. Because these personal issues that we have, they become political, and then affects you personally, like abortion, for example. It's a very personal thing to go through to a decision, but the laws affect your access to that. Or with the LGBT stuff, it's like gay rights, like for weddings, for getting married. It's like that is a personal thing, but it's the government that will dictate whether you could do it or not. So it's kind of like, I guess, finding that balance of community work versus what the government can decide. And it's very difficult, like, until it affects you. I think it's totally fine to not have an opinion on something. And I think it's should be encouraged to say, I don't have enough information to have an opinion.
Oh, I love that.
Like, let's normalize that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, from a humanitarian standpoint, from a standpoint of someone who is human and coexists with other humans, I am able to empathize with everybody, whether or not I have experienced their experiences. And I think that's important. And when I say empathize, I don't mean agree. I mean empathize. I mean listen, and I mean try to understand with an open mind and an open heart.
Yeah.
But when you said what you said, I do agree with that, because everything we do is political in some sense, from what we wear to the things we consume to it's all political. But what I mean by that is it appears to me as though we go to the law first and then to the community, because depending on where the law lands on, then we're like, haha, see, I was right. And then that only lasts for so long before it sways another way, and then we go through it again and again, which is what we see time over time again,
It can be crazy, like, things can be blown up just to be inflammatory, like the trans women using the women's washroom or something like that. First of all, trans people have existed since the beginning of humans. If you look at any culture, ancient Greece or Hydras in India or two-spirited people in native cultures, they have always existed. But for some reason, they're getting a lot of, like, press these days. So it's this, like, propaganda of, like, pedophilia, or like they can't be in the washroom because there's children's there. They have been using the washroom that they needed to use since the beginning of time, and it's only issue now. And also, it's not happening. There aren't, like, give me some cases of a trans woman violating a minor. It's predominantly way more than 90% cis white men doing those things. So let's let them not go to washrooms ever. But it's like, that's just inflammatory.
Yeah, see, like, I just, like, and because I am in, like, because I practice law, I also see things from a somewhat different perspective. I don't know if people, because I remember one time I was having this conversation with one of my friends, and it was a very passive conversation, because, again, I don't know what people know and what they don't know. Some things I just assume that is, like, common knowledge. But I remember having this discussion with one of my friends, and he looked at me and he was like, this is one of the coolest things I've ever heard. He's like, I've never thought about it that way.
Oh.
And it's so I don't, have you ever seen the movie On the Basis of Sex?
I have. It's about, like, the judge.
Yeah, Justice Ginsburg.
Yes.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She's, like, one of my all-time favorite human beings in the world.
Feminist
like,
galore.
I love her. And why I love her is not because of the substance of the things that she said, but because of the framework and the way in which her mind worked, okay? And in our societies, in Canadian societies, and in common law societies, we have this thing called precedent that I'm sure everybody knows about.
Yes.
And as time goes by and the judge made laws and things keep piling on top of each other, essentially, this is the simplest way I can think about explaining it. And over time, the message changes, because they don't use the substance of what you're saying. It's, like, more so the process. So, for example, that On the Basis of Sex movie, which I recommend everybody watch, was about a case that Justice Ginsburg did at the beginning of her career as a lawyer. And it was a case where she was actually defending her male client because he couldn't get caregiving benefits, because at the time they didn't recognize males as being able to be caregivers.
Yeah.
That judgment ended up essentially, through precedent, piling up on top of each other, leading us to judgments like Roe v. Wade. You know what I mean? Because it was the framework was used as gender equality, like sexual equality, and that framework was kind of, like, built over time to manifest into what it was. So my concern with some of the laws that we have in place right now is, like, my worry is, if we are to regulate, which is unfortunate, if we are to regulate around transgender bodies, then that opens the door to regulating over people's bodies in general.
Yeah.
And what that means for women, and what that means for children, and what that means for people in general down the line. That's what concerns me. So it's not necessarily the idea of, like, oh, which is how social media makes it. Like, make it cool again to just be somewhere in the middle.
Fair.
Like,
Yeah.
you don't always have to be on this side or
No.
that side. Like, you can be somewhere in the middle, and that's cool.
Yeah. Then I
You know
agree
what I
with
mean?
that, for
So
sure.
that's my only thing was like, it stresses me out. Otherwise, I'm going to be honest. I know some things, don't know some things. I'm open to a lot of things, but my opinion is not fully formed yet.
Right.
As it pertains to myself. I don't know.
Yeah. And information changes. Like, science changes every 2 seconds.
You've also been changing my mind about a lot of things.
Oh, good. Love it.
Because you and I disagree about a lot of things politically.
Yeah.
But we've come to the conclusion, I think, that we both want the same things. We just disagree on how to get there.
That could be true. Yeah. And I think, you know, we have the election coming up and everything. I think it's a journey though,
Yeah.
because, you know, you're young, your family highly influences you. Then maybe you go to school and you have different information, and then you get older. So people change and evolve, and I think that their values can too. And also it can just be part of the process. You know, I also think it's just important to people have the skills of critical thinking, because we have so much media and news and stuff out there. And it's like, if you're given information, you should be able to dissect it and be like, okay, where's this coming from? What is the motive? What's the bias? What are they trying to say? What are they trying to make me feel with this article or this whatever? Yeah, so it can be tricky, but, you know, I like the idea of like, you know, we're all in this together. We all want to have a good life.
Yeah.
We want to be happy and healthy and loved and supported and safe. And, you know, we're very lucky to live in this country. But this country could be way better too.
Yeah.
So we can't be like complacent. And also, like, let's be civil too.
Oh my God, yes, please.
Let's have, like, that's why conversations like this are so important.
Yeah.
And also, like, you know, the fact that we're not giving too many men microphones.
That's also important.
No, but yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, just leading with grace. And I really like talking to people, though, that have totally different opinions and views than me, because I want to know how they got there, because there's a reason, right?
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. And I liked what you said about the government having too much control, like, over our bodies. We're talking about like abortion or trends and stuff like that. But I feel like right now it's like there's this rule book on how to be trans, and if you're a trans woman, you need to look this way or need to look another way if you're a trans man. And I hope that in the future it will be less hormones, less surgeries, and more like just being a human and like to express yourself in whichever way and not feel like you have to look or be a certain way to be accepted by society or to like pass, not be clocked.
Yeah. I'm totally down for the idea of everybody just being who the fuck they want to be.
Yeah. I
You know,
really
as
do
long
think
as you're not hurting anybody else, like, to me, honestly, like, I could care less what you want to do in your downtime. I could care less, like, what kind of friends you want to make and who you want to associate with and what you want to spend your time doing and advocating for. As long as you're not hurting anybody, I think, like, it's your world just as much as it is mine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I get that. And you've also opened I'm also very, I should say this to you also, everybody. I'm also very teachable.
Okay.
So, like, even though sometimes...
Put me in, coach.
Yeah, for real. Because sometimes I do have... I am someone who appears as though, like, I have fully formed ideas. And for the most part, I'd like to fully form my ideas before I open my mouth and say them.
Okay.
But I'm open to different perspectives because, like, my mind has been changed in significant ways in the past.
Right. But I mean, we're all students of life, right?
Yeah.
We never stop learning. And that's actually one of the best qualities to have, is to be open to learn more. That's also why travel is so important. Like, if you don't have a passport, get one, please.
Yeah, let's go on vacation together, everybody.
Let's see different cultures and how different people live, and just open your horizons and just always have an open mind, open eyes, open heart.
Yeah, I love that. Open mind, open heart.
Yeah.
But no, that's true. And I mean that when I say you've opened my eyes in a lot of ways too, because part of honestly, I know I'm going to sound like such a conspiracy theorist, but I can't help but think that this is what they want.
Okay.
Which is for us to never be able to have a civil conversation.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so it doesn't matter what your beliefs are. I think if there were an evil end goal, it would be that we never have a civil discussion and that we're not able to talk to each other as humans and as, you know, like neighbors and whatever. And I really, really appreciate that about you, where it's like we've had many discussions where we disagreed, but it's always been on a, okay, you have your opinions, I have mine, let's talk about it.
Yeah, with love. Because you're never going to agree completely with everyone. But at the end of the day, we all have to share this space and exist together. And that's okay. Like, as long as you're not supporting genocide or something.
Things could be worse.
You know?
But what was I going to say? Have you heard that video? Did you watch that video of Theo Von where he was like, some caller called in and was like, oh, like, I'm Filipino and I want to take my boyfriend home and he's not Filipino. And he was like, oh, I get it. It's daytime racism. Do you remember that?
I haven't seen that particular clip. I am actually obsessed with Theo Von.
He's my favorite.
But he for sure says problematic things. But he's very funny.
But he also makes it so lighthearted where he creates an environment for people to just like be themselves and have like random conversations about random things. So let's hope he doesn't get canceled.
He said it when a guy called in and he's like, I got a girl pregnant and found out she's my first cousin.
Yeah, oh my God.
He's like, that kid's at least going to need glasses.
He's like, maybe don't stand directly under the moon. I know, he killed me. That was hilarious. But the thing I wanted to tell you about that daytime racism is like, and I'm sure like you coming from like a traditional Greek family could probably understand this. There's a lot of daytime racism in like traditional like families of like other cultures.
I want to say like everyone's racist. Like as an immigrant, you're just exposed to that one culture, right?
So you don't know any better.
You don't know. And you just know everyone that's different from you, that looks different, that speaks a different language, different religion. They're just like them. They're other.
Like they're an outsider.
They're an outsider. So everyone has their own prejudices.
Yeah.
And just how, like I said, everyone should know a gay person or a trans person or whatever. Like everyone should know someone of every culture.
Oh, 100%.
So you have that personal connection to them and you can understand that thing is just like a trope. Or it's not really real, or it's just racist, or it's just whatever.
Yeah.
Like, have real life experiences and connections with people. Yeah. But yeah, like, I mean, Greek people, they're racist.
So it is prevalent.
Come on.
Yeah, so you know what I was going to say about that? Like, obviously, I think that even if it's daytime racism or whatever you want to call it, which to me, daytime racism is just like you're prejudiced and maybe you're racist, but it's not like you want to make laws against... Like, you know, like it's just a milder version of like full-time racism.
Yeah, like and not a KKK hat.
Yeah, but like you like would watch.
Yeah, I mean, like I want to say too, it's generational.
Documentary.
Like, you know, Canada has a lot of immigrants, and it's like, okay, well, the older generation is going to think one thing because they were exposed to one thing, but then I'd like to believe that as the generations progress, that racism like slowly dissipates because they wake up to like how the world actually is.
And it does, because think about how many things we teach our parents.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I had to have conversations with like some of my own family members on like okay, yeah, I get what you're saying, but this is actually why it's like that. You know what I mean? Because like I feel like they didn't get a lot of education, they didn't get a lot of exposure to some of these topics. So we do, even though we are the younger generation, we do really educate.
We're doing the work.
We're
doing the Lord's work.
But what I was gonna say about daytime racism is one thing I learned from daytime racism, which was a good thing.
Okay.
The only thing that was a good thing, which was the undertone of understanding that even though you might feel a certain way about somebody, and I'm not saying that it's okay to, you would still die for them if they needed you to be there for them.
Love that.
Because that's how my family was. Even though they had their own prejudice and their own whatever, even the worst of the daytime racists of my family would never stand idly by to see something actually be done to people of different races or people who look different than them. Right. And I think that's also something that like is prevalent in our cultures, where they are maybe like ignorant and like uneducated in a lot of ways, but like our parents have a lot of heart. You know what I mean? It's a different kind of racism than what we see now.
Yeah, but it's also a different kind of racism to our grandparents than to our parents, than to us. Like, you know, there's levels to it.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, as long as people are taking a step in the right direction, it's like a baby step type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, you would hope that people still have like a moral compass and would feel that nobody, no matter their race or their religion or whatever, deserves to suffer or to have anything bad happen to them.
Yeah, 100%. And if you have that little, like, no matter what your beliefs are, if you have that little twinkle of like humanity in your heart, both sides should know hope. That there's hope. That you can, and I've seen this in my own life with people who I thought were ignorant or didn't understand certain things. And if I had given up, they would have gone the rest of their life being that way and possibly getting worse.
Yeah.
But because I believe that there was that humanity that connected us and that little glimmer of hope, I didn't give up and I tried to educate. And that has been done for me too in a lot of things that I didn't understand and I was ignorant towards. Mm-hmm. So that is also important. There's for as long as there's humanity connecting us, there is hope. So
that's right, Pandora's box.
Put me out. Well, I wanted, like, what was that thing? Never mind.
You'll think of it.
I thought about it. I don't know how to put it into words, and it's giving me anxiety, so I'm over it.
That's fine.
What are some interesting things going on in your life? Let's make it more and more lighthearted.
I don't. That's a terrible question.
You're dating now.
I am dating.
Like, you're in the market.
Girl, I've been on the market.
What is your experience dating as an adult?
It's hard out here in these streets. Okay?
I love how you didn't even wait for me to finish my question before you.
Because it's hard. Ladies, no, honestly, as a woman predominantly dating men, it's like I'm like in my mid-30s. So for me, it doesn't matter. It seems like it doesn't matter who I talk to, whether in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, who knows what. No one's looking for like a relationship or like looking to settle down. And as someone I don't even like to think about this because I don't want it to apply to me, but like whose biological clock is ticking and things like that. It's like, sir, you have a receding hairline. There's more gray in your hair than not. What are we waiting for?
Yeah.
You know, like when will you be ready? So it's tough because, you know, I felt like my 20s was about exploring, experimenting, having, doing new things, being casual.
Just knowing who you are. You know what I mean?
Figuring out who I am,
for sure.
You know? And my 30s, I'm like, okay, I've pretty much done everything. I'm ready to settle down with someone, like have a life with someone, have a partner. And it's tricky. It also, I don't think it helps like being 30 during COVID as well, because I feel like we lost years
for sure.
off of our like lives. And I feel like a lot of guys came out of it wanting to like make up for lost time in terms of like hooking up or whatever.
Well, didn't like pregnancies spike by a whole bunch after COVID?
Yeah, but it was only if like for people that were already in relationships or people who were in COVID relationships.
Oh, I thought it was just guys going out and fucking
spreading their
like
seed.
jackrabbits.
Just not pulling out. Yeah, I think there was a lot of COVID babies, but I think it was for people that were like in relationships or COVID relationships, meaning it was very new and they kind of just nested during COVID.
Yeah.
That was not my experience. I was like, I went on 2 dates walking outside in the cold and I was like, not for me.
Yeah.
I'll wait.
Maybe not. So things open up and we can actually do things.
So now it's like, okay, COVID's dying for the most part. The world is open back up. And yeah, dating is just a practice of patience.
What are you looking for?
6'5", blue eyes. No, I'm kidding. I'm looking for someone that can like maybe not necessarily match my energy, because I don't need to be with someone that is as outgoing or as like activist-y or whatever, but someone who is like somewhat on my level. I'd like someone at least 5'11" or higher, which I know is superficial, But I'm a bigger girl, and I want to be with
Feel,
someone
like, protected.
who's bigger than me.
Yeah.
With someone who, if I'm on top of them, I don't feel like I'm crushing them.
Yeah.
Or even have that thought.
I get that. It could also be like just like I feel like if anybody is entitled to say, because every girl says that, but if anyone is entitled to say they want a taller or bigger guy, it's a girl who is taller. Because you know what I mean? Like, save those guys for those girls, man. I'm tired of seeing these 4'11" girls with these
like 6'5" guys. And I'm like, how does that work? But, you know, I would like someone that has similar values to me, like that believes in a higher power, but isn't super religious, because religion has a lot of flaws.
What if they are? Would you be okay with that?
Depends on the religion.
They're Muslim.
I mean, I like Islam. No, I like Islam, and I really respect their values, and I agree with a lot of them. And this is in Greek culture too, not just in like for Muslim people and stuff like that. I'm very weary of traditional gender roles. Mm-hmm. I am not looking to be like like someone's servant. Mm-hmm. I'm not looking to be stuck in the kitchen, to be a stay-at-home wife, to be the sole caregiver, all of those things. So with that, I say even like with Greek guys or whatever, if they're like have Canadian values, like if their family is whatever, but
just more evolved,
just
Muslim
progressive
values,
progressive. I wouldn't mind if someone...
Because it's like that in every religion, though.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, in my religion, too. So, it's like, I would want something to have more progressive values. I want a partnership. I want us both to be cooking, both to be cleaning, both to be raising the children, like, active. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
I think that's my biggest problem with religion.
Okay.
Where it's like, dude, like, I get it. Like, these are some really good teachings back in the days.
Yeah.
But it's thousands of years later. I think we should interpret them a little bit more broadly.
Yeah, I feel like in a lot of the religion, the women come up like they get the short end of the stick.
Oh, for sure.
Right, and so that's someone who is like they don't need to. If they're educated, that would be great. Mm-hmm. But they don't need to be educated. They could be a tradesperson or whatever, but they need to be
passionate about something.
Not even passionate, like, yes, but also just intelligent, like, as in they have critical thinking.
You definitely need to be, I don't care what you say, you definitely need to be with someone who's, like, smart.
Yeah.
And not even, like, smart enough to pay his bills, like, smart enough to sit there and have conversations
like, I need to be
you.
able to, like, respect their...
Even if it,
like... their point of that, even if they don't fully agree with what I agree with, even though I'm always right, they just need to be able to, hold their own. Yeah. Be funny, be loyal, be family-oriented is important because I want to have a family. And kinky, that's important too.
Okay.
So that's what I'm looking for, handsome, fit.
Well, I am going to put your Instagram at the end of this video, so for whatever reason anybody wants to be involved in Patricia's life. She also posts videos every day. Do you also post them on Instagram or just TikTok?
Just TikTok.
Okay, I'll put your TikTok in the bio too.
Yeah, but you can't message me on TikTok, so don't even try.
Yeah, she's not interested in weird...
No, it's banned.
Oh, you're... Really?
Yeah.
You banned people from messaging?
No, I didn't do anything. TikTok did.
Why?
I have no idea. I really don't.
You have some of the creepiest TikTok comments I have ever read
in
my
life. If I was
dating
my TikTok comments, I would have a new husband every day.
And 16 children.
I would have a lot of children. Yeah. I don't know why that happens. I find it is funny, but weird.
She'll get comments like, and then I'll put her TikTok in the description so you guys can also go and check it out. But she posts like the most wholesome content of like traveling or just day-to-day stuff.
Yeah.
And guys will be in the comments like, I need a job and I'm from India. Can you please sponsor me and bear my children? And it's like, holy fuck, buddy. It's Tuesday at 9 a.m. Like, chill out.
Or, a lot of marriage proposals. And I do try to consciously not make my content like sexy. Like I will post a bikini thing here and there, but that's just because I'm in a bikini at the time. I'm not like...
I think because like you're more like voluptuous.
Yeah.
Like if I were to post the same thing, yours would become more sexualized.
Yeah, this is true.
Because I've seen like you, like I will see pictures of you on the beach and I have pictures of me on the beach. And I've had videos and TikToks of me on vacations or whatever. And none of those pictures have rendered a response such as the ones you get. Like, holy fuck.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how that happened.
Yeah.
I would prefer to have comments that are like make sense with the video
Yeah.
or are like engaging or like more female. Like TikTok is mostly men, and I'm like, well, how did we get here?
Yeah. Like, engage with me. Do not ask to engage me. It's crazy. It's the craziest thing ever. What's that saying? With big tits comes big responsibilities.
I've never heard.
I
You
just
just
made
made
that
that
on the
up.
fly.
You made that up. I knew that.
I just made that on the fly. Okay, so your dating journey is going good though. You went on a couple dates.
I've been on a couple of dates. I have been going on dates.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of second dates.
Mm-hmm.
No third dates so far. So I'm just.
But there's one with
it.
potential, right?
I don't even want to talk about it because
Okay.
I don't want to jinx it.
Okay. There is no potential to be seen anywhere.
No, we're just manifesting.
Okay.
We're manifesting, but also like I have a bunch of jobs. I always have a bunch of jobs, but I was laid off from like my full time recently, and I don't plan on really, or I'm trying to manifest getting a new one like in the fall. And I have this thing where I need to be my best self. Like I need to be at my highest potential. So I feel like even like in the dating world, I'm not fully there yet because I'm not fully where I want to be myself.
Mm-hmm.
So
I understand that.
Yeah. So I feel like I know like when I'm back into like my career job and I'm more, I don't know, I guess like better on paper, I guess, or bring more to the table, I will feel like I have a little bit more agency in the dating stuff.
Yeah.
It would be nice if I find someone now, but that's just how I feel about it.
But I do agree with you 100%. I just believe the law of attraction, and I think that if you become the best version of yourself, that ultimately means that you attract people who are more on par with your vision. But I also think that like that needs to be balanced because there's nothing like building something with someone, you know? So don't wait until you're like the best because we're always growing. Right. We're never the best version of ourselves.
Exactly. And I still have a bunch of jobs. It's not like I'm not working and I'm not being productive or making money or whatever. It's just a thing that I have in myself. But I don't know. I have been single for a while and I almost forget what it feels like to be in a relationship. And I
have to remind you every now and then.
Yeah. And I feel like I'll just like be in my apartment and be like, what would I do if there was a guy here right now? Like, where do you put them?
Oh, it's the same exact thing except with somebody else also bedrotting right next to you. It's the same exact thing. What was I going to ask you? Tell me your biggest pet peeve of a guy doing it. Like your biggest turn off where if they do it, you're like, ooh.
Many. There's so many.
I have a bunch too. What do they call them? Icks?
Icks.
Yeah, give me a couple icks.
So like, okay, first of all, let's start at your profile because we're all online dating, okay? We're all online dating. First of all, have good pictures, have good lighting, smile, look at the camera, don't have 25 people in the picture, show your body.
And if I see another guy with a profile picture of them holding up a fish, I swear to God.
See, that has become a huge ick right now. That doesn't even like bother me as much because I'm like, oh, he has a skill, you know? But like, so one, like put effort into your bio. Put your height, for the love of God. Just do it. People want to know.
And don't lie.
And don't lie, because that's even worse. Have a bio. Put some effort into it. Match with people. Have conversations. Ask questions. And ask them out fairly in. A couple days of talking, ask them out. Ask for their number. Get off the app. Everyone's trying to get off the app. And then when you go on a date, you know, I understand that guys don't want to put too much time or money into it, like asking them for dinner or whatever. Some people my age, that is a deal breaker if you don't take them for dinner. For me, it's not necessarily not. But if you ask them for coffee or whatever you do, make a plan. Pick the place. Don't rely on her to make these plans. You're the man. Have that position of leadership. You know, women don't want to be making these decisions. And when you're on that first date, ask questions. Don't make her like have the whole conversation and pay for the date. Don't even hesitate. Pay for the date.
Sakes.
Come on.
Yeah, no, and it always be the guys that don't make the plans, that don't want to pay the bills and whatever, that are like, I like a girl that's submissive. It's like, buddy, you would have to be like a very, very like not sane in the membrane type of human being to submit to a guy who can't make coffee plans.
If she's not in her feminine energy, it's because you're not making her feel safe to do so.
It's because you're giving princess.
Yeah. Are you a passenger princess? Like and you know, at the end of the day, yeah, people can be superficial and they want someone tall or good looking or whatever. But if you're like a good person, like a good guy, and you make an effort and you pursue them like in a good way, that will go into your favor. You know, like, let's bring like gentlemen back. Can we do that?
No, for real. My biggest thing right now with today's dating scene is like, dude, date in your own lane. Right. You know what I mean? Like, girls and guys. Don't go out and find a guy who's a gangster and a drug dealer and a whatever, and then you expect him to be a family man. And same for guys. Don't go and meet girls at the club on a Saturday that you see there every single Saturday and then get upset when they're not necessarily the most traditional of women. Go to the right places where you want to meet the right type of person that you would want to have a family with, and stop trying to change people. There's enough people in the world for everyone to find what they want.
Right. And also, like, have big conversations early on. If you want to have kids, if you believe in marriage, if you you know, believe women should have the right to vote, things like that. Find that out early on, and don't get sexual quickly. Don't ask sexual questions right away.
Don't be weird.
Get to know someone like on a real level.
Yeah. You know these alpha male podcast guys that are like, what's your body count?
That's why I was like, men with microphones. I cannot. Also, your body count does not matter. It does not define you. It's so stupid. And if you're so insecure that you can't handle the fact that the person that you've never met before has a history, then maybe you shouldn't be dating.
Again, date in your lane. If you are uncomfortable with somebody having a higher body count or whatever, maybe find a man or a woman or whatever who also shares the same beliefs as you, instead of going and finding someone who doesn't and then making them feel horrible about themselves.
Yeah, because like whether you're a virgin or you've been with 1,000 people, it really doesn't matter. Yes, people's values and morality is different, but it doesn't make you a good or bad person. You don't get any points. So, you know, I think those guys shouldn't even ask those questions if they can't handle the truth. But I also think people shouldn't hide that, because it's like, that's part of your journey as a person.
I loved having this conversation with you. Thank you for being so open and just vulnerable and honest. I really appreciate that. I am going to link if it's okay with you.
Yeah.
I'm going to link your Instagram on the page here. You can't see it right now, but it'll be here. And if anybody wants to, first of all, if you guys want to have another episode where we do like a more specific type of episode where we go more in depth, because I didn't go too in depth about certain things today.
We touched.
Yeah, because
we dabbled.
I was introducing you guys to a little small dose of Patricia. But if you guys want a larger dose of Patricia, we could also potentially ask her to come back on.
Oh, I would love to be back on.
Yeah,
I didn't even think that was an option.
For sure, it's always an option with any of my guests that want to come back. Yeah. It's always up to what the viewers want to see, and if the guests themselves have something new to share and want to come back on, totally open to it.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I just want to say that I think you are incredible.
Oh, thank you.
You are very inspiring to me. You are like, I want to be you when I grow up. And you just do so many things that are like really hard to do. And it seems like you do it with just such ease. Your brain is amazing, and you're so creative, and you're so just capable, and I love it. And I just...
You have no idea what my inner child is doing backflips right now.
I freaking know. And I don't know if you hear it enough, but like even this podcast is amazing, but this is just a small thing of all of the amazing things that you do in your life, but also who you are as a person. And on top of that, you're so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I love you.
And I love your style.
Thank you. But I do genuinely, I'm not just saying this out of like pure like flattery or anything like that. Like my audience who, it's not even my podcast. I've had my Instagram and I've had like a fairly consistent audience for a while because I used to do music.
Yes.
They know, like, I'm a sharpshooter. I say it like it is.
Okay.
I genuinely love your personality. I think you're such
so.
an amazing person. I think you deserve the best of the best of the best, whether that's careers, friends, men, whatever. Because I know you as a person, you deserve the world, in my
Thanks,
opinion.
honey. So do you.
And we might just end up dating each other, to be honest.
I mean.
But yeah, so I will put her Instagram. I put it on the screen already. I will also put it. I will also put her TikTok and her Instagram in the description below. If you guys want to see another episode with Patricia where we go more in depth about any of the topics we
comment
talked
more
about.
topics. And you know what? Make it scandalous.
Yeah, just anything. Because I could talk to her for hours. We could either maybe co-host I'm in the market for a good co-hosting situation.
All right.
Yeah, so maybe we could even do something like that. But if you guys are not trying to do something like that and you guys just want to maybe connect with Patricia directly, she does make TikToks. She has her own Instagram. So you guys are more than welcome to follow her there and have her ignore you and leave you unread. So
depending on the question and the person.
Yeah. I didn't say it was going to be successful, but you guys can try. So is there anything you wanted to say before we get off?
I just wanted to say how much I love you.
I love you too. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you guys for watching. Have a good one. Bye.